I am recording now. Yeah.
Okay. Whose episode is it?
I think this is mine, even though I haven't even finished the last one because my life is out of
Wait,
control.
have you edited like any of your episodes?
Hardly nothing. Yeah, it's.
That's okay. We have the audio. Like we can take our time on this.
Oh yeah.
Whenever we do actually release it, we'll release like 18 of them all at once.
No, I still no. Hear me out, Hans. I still think
give us time.
Yeah, I still think we like even if we have like 18 like built up, we still do like one a week. So then like we take a week off, we don't get it edited. Like that gives us a buffer. That gives us a back catalog.
That's fair.
And when we start to run
your original.
And when
the original plan you had though was to put out like 2 or 3 or 4.
Oh yeah, we could
put out
a couple to start so the feed is full, but then I still think drip feed them because then even if it's like we only have 2 spare ones in the bank left, we could 1 week like do 2 that gives us like a cushion that we can kind of maintain.
No, I'm with you. That makes sense. I believe it is yours, Aaron.
It is mine.
All right, let's do the clap.
Okay, are we ready?
Wait,
everybody ready?
Okay. So.
But you can't check your 6. It's kind of like, taking a screwdriver to a gunfight. What's happening? Just like on top.
I saw Dobie react every single time.
The little ears flinch.
A little blink or something.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Take it away.
Oh boy, make the folder real quick.
Take it away.
I have to wait for Hans to make the folder, so he's paying attention instead of fiddling around in the.
I'm just making sure it's there. That way, when we go to. Anyway, I'm ready.
No, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not excited for this one.
No,
you're not. I had a really good time with this one.
Oh,
I thought this was pretty good. Not as good as the last one.
Oh,
not as good as Under Siege 2.
It wasn't good. It was. I don't think it was good at all.
No, I mean, I didn't have
as
much fun with this one as I did with Under Siege 2.
That's fair. No, I actually had a lot of fun with this one.
There were some fun parts, but
the only reason
the movie that we're talking
about
was
because it was co-star.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Yeah, okay.
Welcome to Steven See It All. I am Aaron.
I'm Hans.
I'm Zach. I'm not happy to be here.
I'm
here under duress.
The film, the objet d'art that we're talking about today, is the Steven Seagal classic.
French language with this.
The Glimmer Man.
Steven Seagal
the
classic.
Glimmer Man. I did. This was one of the Steven Seagal movies that my dad remembered watching.
Oh yeah, okay. So actually, before we all say what we thought, what did Dad think?
My dad just liked this one because it has Major Payne in it. So Keenan Ivory Wayans, who plays like the black sidekick in this one, because there's always a black sidekick. He also made a movie called Major Payne, in which he plays a Marine Corps drill instructor. It's a comedy film. My dad's a Marine, so he loves that movie. So he just liked this one because he remembered Keenan Ivory Wayans. So
does he just like every Keenan Ivory Wayans movie?
I have no idea. I don't know how many of them he's seen.
I was gonna also, so I guess you might not know this, but as a follow-up, does he also like any movie that has either of Keenan Ivory Wayans' brothers in it if he mistakes them for Keenan Ivory Wayans?
Oh.
Like if he saw White Chicks, would he secretly like that movie because he thinks maybe one of them is Keenan Ivory Wayans?
That is possible.
You're trying to think back to other Keenan Ivory Wayans movies? Well, while you think, I'm just going to come around. Okay, I hated this movie.
Oh,
it put me in the dumps. I am mad.
Wait, when did you watch it?
Yesterday.
Okay, that's interesting because you and I have completely flipped. Because I hated the last one, and you were both really upbeat about it. I'm actually relatively upbeat about this one.
No, I literally, I got caught on the way to work in, the vinyl chloride acid rain that we're having here in Pittsburgh now. And I didn't have a great day. And still the worst part of my week was having to sit down and, sit through all hour 47 or so of Glimmer Man.
Well, and about Keenan Ivory Wayans, Major Payne actually stars Damon Wayans.
But did I call that? Did I call that or what?
You absolutely called that.
Wow.
To be fair, there are 3 of them. 2 of them. I'm sorry, Keenan Ivory Wayans. I don't mean this personally. 2 of them more successful than Keenan Ivory Wayans, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably more people have seen Damon and Marlon than they have Keenan Ivory. Is that fair?
Quite possibly.
Just that Marlon and Damon, they have the Wayne brothers show. They have white chicks together. Like, if you see something with 2 of the 3 Wayans brothers, it is not Keenan Ivory.
Oh,
I mean, they're all...
No, that's true. I'm looking at their filmography, and yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and I need to be... I still like Keenan Ivory Wayans. I think he does a good performance here. I think it, in Living Color, like, every time I've seen him in something, like, I do enjoy him. I'm just saying he's probably...
And he hasn't been in much.
No. But the things he's been in, like, I've liked him in everything that he's been in.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so we want to give a synopsis.
Yeah, let's give a synopsis. So in The Glimmer Man, Steven Seagal plays the exact same character he has played in every single of his movies.
Well, no, that's not true.
In that
it is, though.
He is a cop or detective who was also secretly a super secret agent in some sort of government organization.
This time the CIA again. He's been there before.
Well, okay. Riddle me this. Does this movie take place in the Bourne universe?
Well, I'm sorry. Hold on.
I'm not ready. No, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this crap.
Because
I don't have the energy this week. I was fired up last week. I don't know if you saw. I was on cloud 9. That energy's just gone.
Well, okay. So in this movie, you have Brian Cox, who plays Steven Seagal's former boss in like a secret government organization, CIA. But he had a super soldier program that Steven Seagal was in, and Steven Seagal went rogue and like became a spiritualist in Tibet or something. Mm-hmm. Now, Brian Cox would go on a couple years later to play basically the exact same character in the Bourne trilogy.
Well, I mean, okay, well, here, instead of engaging with your theory, I'm going to try to match it with an even crazier theory. Do you think the Glimmer Man takes place in the X-Men 2? The X2 X-Men 2
in universe? Which he plays William Stryker, basically the exact same character.
Basically the same character. I would actually say, if anything, this takes place in the X-Men universe.
But does that mean that the Bourne trilogy takes place in the X-Men universe? Just the X-Men
I think that has already
yet.
canonically been established. I think that was addressed upon in like a behind-the-scenes featurette.
I don't think I think both of these are completely invalid because we've already established that all of Seagal's movies take place in the same universe in which he's passed around from police department to police department because none of them can stand him, and that means that all of these terrible movies have to take place in by either or both the Bourne universe or the
which
X-Men
actually
universe.
means that the Bourne universe, because there are only 3 of those movies and there are 50 Seagal films, I think that the Bourne films take place in the Seagaliverse.
Wow, I can't even begin to tell you how much I hate that.
I mean, I'm not even a big Bourne. I don't even really like Bourne that much, and I still think that's incredibly.
You don't
insulting.
Like Bourne?
I mean, they're fine.
How
they're
do you
not my favorite? Oh my god,
they're fantastic.
They're fine action movies. I didn't say anything mean about them. I said mean things about Glimmer Man. I said they're not my favorite. It's just I like the the Daniel Craig James Bonds more as generally. Well,
but anyway,
ideologically not so much.
But anyway. Steven Seagal playing Lieutenant Jack Cole is called in to catch a serial killer.
The Family Man.
One
serial murderer.
2 serial
called
killers.
The Family Man, who goes around and he kills specifically Catholic families.
Yeah, how did you feel of watching this one? Actually, that was going to be one of my questions. Was how.
So I have some stuff about the Catholic imagery and the weirdness about Catholicism. Like, there were so many moments where this movie was like close to being clever, but someone just like they thought they knew what they were talking about and then just whiffed it at the last second. And it really bothers me.
Let's hear it. Bring it on. You're leading this one.
Okay, we're not there yet.
The synopsis.
More synopsis.
All right.
So he has a partner, Jim Campbell, played by Keenan Ivory Wayans. Not Damon Wayans. Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Make sure you said that.
Absolutely fantastic in this movie. I think he is the sole reason why I enjoyed this one so much.
He was great, and he just got saddled with the worst partner in the world, Steven Seagal. Which, spoiler alert for the final scene of the film, Detective Jim Campbell realizes that Jack Cole, played by Steven Seagal, is the worst. And at the end of the movie, he asks him, "Do not call me. Do not contact me." This was horrible.
See, and the problem is, though,
I think they played it for laughs.
They tried to, because we've seen a similar thing like that in other movies like this, where it's like, don't even get in contact with me, but then, you see him team up in the sequel anyway. Like, they try to play it for laughs, but I had the same thought while I was watching. I'm like, no, that's real. That's 100%, like, do not ever talk to me again. You're a terrible person. Leave me alone. Forget my name.
My life is objectively worse for having met you.
Like, that was Keenan Ivory Wayans talking to Steven Seagal, not Jim Campbell talking to Jack Cole.
They didn't even know the cameras were rolling.
Anyway, so he's trying to track down the family man. And so he goes around and bumbles his way into a bunch of fights, which are, as far as he can tell, totally disconnected, but end up at the end all being
very
connected to a secret second murderer who was using the serial killer murders to cover up his targeted murders. But he made the mistake of killing a family who wasn't Catholic, but were Russian Orthodox, which aesthetically very similar. Like when he goes and like investigates their house, there are like crucifixes and stuff all over the place. So they keep the aesthetics of like high church Catholicism, but they can say it wasn't Catholic for some reason. I don't know why.
They also, it should be pointed out, make the mistake of killing Jack Cole's ex-wife.
Yes,
and that's who is also Catholic. Him most interested in the case. And also, has him, Jack Cole is potentially accused of being the family killer.
Yeah, because they find his fingerprints in the house.
In his ex-wife's house. Which, I'm going to be honest, they say, we found your fingerprints in the ex-wife's house. And he says, yeah, I mean, it's my ex-wife. And I do have to give him credit. In that one case, I was like, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But like, that's not suspicious.
Okay, but they said on her body, and he said, well, they were planted.
Yeah,
but I don't know why.
Like, I think they never addressed that. They never came back to it.
No,
they never explained how his fingerprints got on the body.
This will not surprise you, but from reading some behind-the-scenes information, this, like every other one of these movies, was a victim to some cuttery editing, fun, good, happy shenanigans.
You can tell in the way that this whole thing just looks.
So any inconsistencies... Or most inconsistencies.
Yeah, we are watching the film that was put through a shredder and taped back together. Like, that's...
Quite honestly.
In sometimes some fun ways.
Are there any other important... do you want to finish the synopsis real quick? Because I think you pretty much just need to go over the ending and then you're good.
Yeah, and so Steven Seagal discovers that, in fact, the Orthodox woman was a translator for some business guy who was smuggling... chemical weapons into Russia to help Serbian terrorists or freedom fighters, depending on who you ask, on behalf of a government agent who was using his power as a government agent to make money. Not explained exactly how.
Corruption.
And then he interrogates. I'm putting air quotes up on that. By shooting in the foot and hand this government agent and recording it all, and puts an end to the plot to sell weapons to Serbians. And then there's a couple explosions near the end of the movie.
Yeah, he tracks down all the people involved in the conspiracy and brutally murders them all.
Murders them. No warrants. Nothing.
Well, it was supposed to be a setup to catch them, and then it just turned into brutal murder.
Except he just throws that idea. We'll get there, but he just he starts the setup, which was like, okay, this is kind of clever, but then this is one of those moments where the movie was like this close to having a good idea, and then just Seagal can't help it, and he needs to be the star of every scene. And so as his plan is coming to fruition, he just decides, I'm going to interrupt this, kicks down the door and starts shooting everybody so he can be a cool action star. And it ruins everything.
Too. It was such a good line because his Keenan Ivory Wayans, I can't remember his character's name, says to him, didn't you taught me earlier in the movie, a half hour ago, that the smart people are supposed to wait and be calm and be patient, and Steven Seagal looks at him and says, yeah, I did tell you that. That's probably a good idea. And then he turns around and kicks the door in.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, although it's very weird because Seagal both yes and no wanted that. This is kind of leading into some of the weird editing shenanigans, but how do I even start with this? So something I think you can honestly learn more about a person, not by learning like who they are, but like who they think they are. Like every one of these movies, Seagal's character is what Seagal thinks he is in real life. In a way, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Where like, you know, a lot of the true version of him comes through, but it's like this idealized version of him. But so in real life, Seagal gets heavy into Buddhism around this time. So of course his character is heavy into Buddhism and doesn't want to do violence, but just has to do violence because he's the best at it. So it's very weird because it does feel like a typical Seagal thing that they could have done like a cool, clever sting where they work together, take him down, but he has to kick down the door and kill him. But then also he said, hey, actually, I don't want to kill the like main bad guy at the end. Like I want to change that. So they had to like convince him on set, like, no. This guy, like, he's a bad guy, so he needs to die so he can be like reincarnated and become like better in a next life. Like that's how they convinced him to let him kill this fictional person in the movie. And like they had these like back and forths, and he wanted like the guy to live in the end, like just to change his ways. So it's very weird because it feels like Seagal to kick down the door and start shooting, but also then to behind the scenes like fight to make it so he doesn't kill the people at the end. But also I feel like it bears pointing out two things. One, these beliefs of not wanting fictional people in his fictional action movies to be harmed did not translate to these Buddhist beliefs that he had did not translate into like not assaulting like actual people in the real life, in the real world. And two, this person that they went back and forth that he didn't want to kill, he wanted to have a peaceful ending, dies via wrought iron fence spike through the head. Like he doesn't just get shot. It is
crucifixion.
I thought it was Steven Tobolowsky's character that he didn't want to
kill. Wait, do I have this mixed up? Who did he not
maybe I have it mixed up. I thought it was Steven Tobolowsky's character that he like shot, and then they had to dub something in to make it seem like he didn't actually die. But maybe I have that wrong.
Well, so he did not. I think you're right. He did not want to kill that man, but I guess then in that case was okay killing the man by shoving the wrought iron fence through his head.
Well, that was the guy that killed his wife.
Either way, I see a bit of an inconsistency here.
It's still messy.
And again, I will
iterate how you slice it.
Currently, at this point in time, by the point of this movie, there were more than a handful of women that had come forward with accusations of assault from him. So he was not aiming to be a good person in the real world, just in the fake world.
There's also this strangeness here about how he makes this movie about how it's bad to sell weapons to Russia, for which he now in real life works.
No, it was very strange in the movie when they're like, oh, we got to stop these Russians. And hearing that from Seagal's mouth, I was like, wait a minute, what the... You're talking about like Vladimir Putin's like special best friend, Steven Seagal. Yeah. No, that threw me for a loop when that came up. I said, okay, character growth?
Question mark?
He hated the Russians, now he likes that. I don't know.
But that's basically how the movie
good
went.
Synopsis.
Maybe we can do things a little bit differently here. Let's just examine the characters before we just start randomly going through our notes.
Okay, that's fair.
So what do we think of Seagal as a character? Jack Cole as a character?
So I just want to clarify the reason at the beginning you said he plays the same character he's played every time, and I said he's a little different. I think for me the main thing is that he is by far the most. This is when he really doubles down on his kind of self-racial identification confusion. Because in this movie he talks like a bad imitation of a black man, but acts like a bad imitation of a Chinese man. And it is incredibly painful to sit through. It is by far the most cringeworthy Steven Seagal character we've had thus far.
It's like
he's wearing like a Manchu jacket, and he has like Tibetan prayer beads. And when they go into that like Chinese medicine shop, like he's like the guy who learns some of a language and then pretends that everyone who speaks that language natively is his best friend.
Yes, no, 100%.
And like totally like him and have accepted him into their culture.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very weird.
Hey, you know how
But he does that, but he also like makes fun of their culture.
Oh yeah.
In the process of doing that.
And it was really painful to watch all of that, every single piece of it. The only saving grace there was Keenan Ivory Wayans.
That's true. You know how it wasn't funny the first time whenever like Keenan Ivory Wayans like eats like some powdered substance in this like herbal shop and Steven Seagal says that's powdered deer penis. You know how that like wasn't a funny joke?
Yeah.
3 times
keeps coming up.
That joke is made. The same exact joke, deer penis, is used as a joke 3 times.
Yep.
Sucked every time.
Yeah, it was not funny ever.
I hated this. So this is really what it boils down to. You asked me about the character. You asked us about the character of Jack the Glimmer Man Cole. That is like pretty much why I just could not stand this movie. Every other movie, we have talked multiple times, specifically in Under Siege 1 and 2, like the best part of any Skull movie is how little Steven Skull's in it. Like you have Gary Busey or like Big Ed from Twin Peaks like carrying the movie, and you realize that actually looking back, Seagal only had like 12 lines, and wasn't that pretty cool? He is just everywhere in this whole movie. He's always talking about, and it's just nonsense.
Well,
he's not saying anything, but he won't shut up. Oh my god, it's unbearable.
There were a couple of moments where I thought, if you had a different actor in this slot, it might work. Like, some of this might work.
It's not even might. I'm sorry, Hans, I'm not letting you talk. I'm not letting you get an edge word in. But I can't, like, this is a buddy cop movie. This was a time period when Hollywood was pumping out buddy cop movies every chance they could. And that only works. Like, those movies work based on the buddy cops.
Yeah.
You have two characters who get along. If one of those characters is just unbearable, the movie doesn't work.
Yeah. See, this is what I won't say that you're wrong, because you're 100% right. Like, it's a terrible, terrible, terrible movie. I just had a really good time. Now, granted, this was the first one of these that I watched. I had two. I did not have a big dinner. Actually, I don't think I had dinner. I had a big lunch at like 3 o'clock, so I didn't eat dinner. And then I had 2 pretty hefty vodka cranberries. So I was having a good time with this one. It wasn't good, but I was having fun, and it's funny to me because that was your summary last time, is that it wasn't good, but you were having fun.
I do like the flop here. It wasn't good. I was having a pretty good time. Not as fun as Under Siege 2 Dark Territory.
No, nothing's as fun as Under Siege 2 Dark Territory.
But I thought it was... I don't think the villain was quite... Like, the villains weren't quite there. There were too many villains.
It was way too real. It was way too close to things that like actually happen every single day, and it was not fun.
Well,
it
also,
was not villains. Campy or fun, or there was no space laser to blow up the Pentagon.
Not just blow up the Pentagon, blow up the secret nuclear bunker under the Pentagon.
Oh, trust me, I know. Oh, trust me, don't worry. Hi, Zachary, Under Siege 2, Dark Territories, Weiberg. Here, I'm very familiar with the plot in Under Siege 2 Dark Territory. I am that movie's biggest fan. Trust me, I know. And then I had to see the worst pile of garbage in my life right after that.
But, so the opening sequence to this film gave me false hope.
Yeah.
Like the opening title sequence was doing like some interesting kind of artsy things.
Yeah. That came out of nowhere and then also went nowhere.
Yep. I was like, oh, are we gonna try something like some like Art Nouveau? Are we gonna like try some avant-garde film? Nope, never mind. They just let someone with some amount of vision do the title sequence and then not touch the rest of the movie.
Yep. And
I was given false hope.
It was a fairly conventional. It could have been like a halfway decent, pretty forgettable buddy cop movie. Like I could just say this one thing and then shut up because it like pretty much summarizes my thoughts. It's just while I was watching this, I was like, I could be watching Rush Hour. I could be watching Rush Hour too. There are so many of these with the buddy cop movies where they play off each other so well. They're just fun dynamics, and they don't have to make sense. They don't have to be very good. But basically, you have name some random like black actor from the 80s or 90s. Like they gave like every single black actor working in Hollywood and one dog got a movie like this, and it just sucks that one of them had to have Steven Seagal in it, because otherwise this could have been a halfway decent movie.
Aww.
And all I could think about was every other movie that I'd rather be watching. Like we talked about before, it was Damon, right? Damon Wayans. This isn't technically, but I don't think he's actually copping this. He was in The Last Boy Scout just a couple years earlier with Bruce Willis. I'd be having way more fun watching Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans in The Last Boy Scout. Not that Keenan Ivory's bad, but he draws the short straw, and he's stuck with Seagal, and it sucks, and I hate it.
Poor guy. Again, I
could have been watching Zootopia. I don't care. That's a better buddy cop movie.
I was like just watching. I don't know. Like his character made it for me. So let me just give you a little snippet here. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just give you a little snippet here, because in the very beginning of the movie, he said somebody in the police station, I don't remember who, was talking to him and trying to explain like a situation to him, and he looks at them and like this the like head shake quizzical face and says, "If you don't say it in English, I'm going to beat you to death with a dictionary." And that really made me laugh.
Again, because that's
like a classic. That's a good buddy cop movie.
That's a good buddy cop line.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And Seagal wasn't in that scene. It really got me. And then later, they're in the car park, and they're trying to get to the. They just had the fight with the people that were breaking into the car, or whatever. They met the people that were supposed to be there to kill them, and they're trying to interrogate them, and they only speak Russian. And Seagal asks Campbell, "You speak Russian?" He goes, "Yeah, a little bit," and then picks up the guy's head and just starts banging it on the hood of the car.
Okay, see,
it sounds terrible, but God, the delivery of that was the delivery was so spot on. It was just perfect, and it's such a stark contrast to Seagal because throughout this entire movie, he's the same emotionless bag of shit that he always is, delivering his lines like in a hushed whisper almost because he can't act. And then you have Keenan Ivory Wayans, who is like putting so much emphasis into the scene, and it's fantastic.
No, the part when he says like, "Oh, I speak a little," and just says bang his head, that is actually like the closest I came to being happy to watch this movie. That probably was like, again, when you just describe it, it doesn't sound funny at all.
No, but the delivery in the context of the buddy cop movie, it was just so good.
Okay, but can I ask a quick question? When you talk about like Seagal delivering his lines the way Seagal delivers his lines, yes, and is he just like at, I don't know how old he is. He's like 48, 49 when this movie came out.
He's in his 50. When this came out?
When this came out. Now he's like 70, but this was like, he was like
1996. I don't know.
Is he like fully senile in this movie at this point? Like what happened with his script or his lines or whatever? Like I felt like I had to go back in reverse because I thought I was missing something. No, they're like either when he is saying something, it is either something where he's just trying to be cool, or it is a metaphor or an idiom so badly wrangled that it's just non sequitur, or he is just like repeating back what somebody just said to him, like not adding anything new, but acting as though he just said a new thing. Yeah. Like, is he 100% just like straight up like bumbling like Grandpa Simpson here?
It's quite possible.
Like he's talking to this gal, and she's like, "Yeah, you met this guy before. He's my boyfriend." And he goes, "Oh, you're his girlfriend." And I'm like, yeah, she wasn't coy or sneaky about it. That's just what she said.
Yep.
He was 44 when this movie came
44. Out. Wait, now I'm blanking. I need to. There's another one. I didn't take notes this movie around. I was just like, vibes.
Oh, I took a lot of notes.
I had 5 lines worth of things. We've already made it through 3 of them.
Oh, now it really bugs me because there's a second one that stuck out where character. Well, so the one that, it's not even senile, but the one that really got me is also when he says like, "Nah, these guys are smart. These are professionals." And then he holds up that it was a check with the company's name written on it, like buying the plane for this like translator mule. They're like, "Oh, they're real smart. They're professionals." And it literally has the name of the bad guys on this like super corrupt check that they're paying a person off with. That one just kind of got me.
I didn't even think about that, but you're right. I think my favorite part about this was that his character was so obviously the suspect for the murder of his ex-wife, and they just didn't do anything about it.
No, never investigated that.
Oh my god. Oh.
They tried to investigate him, and then they like pulled his files, and they can't find anything on this guy before his police career, and they just like didn't do anything about it.
That was at the end. Oh my god! At the end, when the police chief's like, "Well, I guess I owe you an apology. I won't give it to you, but I owe it to you." And I'm like, "No, nothing happened to him. Nothing bad happened. He just kept doing exactly what he was doing before, and he was fine." No. Because at one point, Internal Affairs came to pick him up, and it wasn't actually Internal Affairs; it was the Russian mob. Internal Affairs never even bothered him, other than the one lie detector that he passed.
I was going to say, my only, I was so happy when his comeuppance finally came, and it was actually the Russian mob impersonating Internal Affairs. And it's like, well, I guess he just gets away with that again, huh?
His one conversation with Internal Affairs, like they talk about, I've never seen anything like this on a lie detector before. He just answered every question truthfully and walked out of the room.
Well, because they even say, they're like, "Oh, could anybody like lie through this?" And they're like, "Oh, if only they had perfect control over their emotions." And they say it in the way that the implication is supposed to be he has perfect control over his emotions. But no, he answered everything truthfully. That's just how he passed it. He was truthful.
Yeah.
Such a terrible movie.
He doesn't have perfect control of his emotions because he stormed out because he was so mad about the test.
In typical Hans fashion, audio medium, I have a screenshot for you.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
that will tie in with whatever we release this on. Now, do you remember in the penultimate fight scene that he's taken out all the guys that they came there to actually arrest, but then he decides he was going to ambush them anyway?
Yeah.
And then he
no warrant or anything, by the way. He doesn't even have his badge at that point.
Right. Actually, that's a good point. Keenan Ivory Wayans gets shot in the shoulder and tossed out a window and is holding on for dear life. So
are you going to point out that you can see the green screen reflecting on his bald head?
It's
so
I
bad.
didn't actually notice. I found something even better.
It's so bad.
It's so bad.
I'll have to scroll through and find a screenshot of that one in particular. No, so he's on the roof. He rappels off the roof to go get his partner and then bring him down to the ground floor, right?
Stunt double very clearly rappels off the roof.
Okay, fine, whatever. But
yes.
You see the scene of him rappelling off the roof, right?
Yes.
Now look at this picture. And look very closely at this picture.
Wait, what am I looking at?
I don't know what I'm looking
at.
at.
Oh, the person holding the rappel at the top?
Yeah.
This is a random person.
This is the rope is coming from the roof of the building, and then there's a stagehand or somebody that has this big hook. You can see their hand, and you can clearly see the hook, and they're holding it back so that when he's rappelling, the rope doesn't swing too far out from the building.
Yeah. No, I did.
They didn't think to edit that out?
I
would also like to point out...
They had a lot of other editing they were doing at the time.
I know, but look at it. It's so bad.
I want to say, where did Seagal get his climbing equipment?
Where he
got his climbing equipment? Because he's ex-CIA. I don't know.
Yeah, he found it on the roof. Of course, it was on the roof, readily available.
There are much bigger continuity issues in this movie.
Well, it's not really a continuity issue. It just added onto the pile of weird things that happen in this movie. He seems so obsessed with making this character the best at everything that it ceases to make sense in any way.
Yeah, that's
so, there's that whole
autopsy
one of these scene movies. About I'll beat you to death with a dictionary. Where Seagal just walks over to the body and picks up a scalpel and starts dissecting this body. He's not an autopsy surgeon. He does not have the authorization to do that. He doesn't even have the skill. He shouldn't even have the skills to do this. And he removes a breast implant.
Yeah, that did piss me off. And that pissed me off because it brought me right back to Under Siege, which was the best one of these movies so far. And the scene where
you forgot a number 2 there when you just said that last time.
The scene where he looks back to the ship veteran who's the only one who's supposed to know how to man the big guns that have since been decommissioned, and then they cut to the next scene, and instead of the old man giving orders on how to use the big guns, Seagal's telling everybody how to use the big guns when he doesn't know how to use the big guns because he has to know everything. His character has to be the expert, even though it doesn't make sense. It's so irritating.
He must be the smartest person in any room. And he will just make stuff up in order to make that happen. He just starts dissecting this body. No gloves, no mask,
which also
no preparation.
I will point out, if it comes when it comes to trying to make me as pissed off as possible at a character, having the first 5 minutes we see with him, what does he do?
Oh my gosh.
He is specifically told, hey, this is not under the purview of your job. This isn't what we handle. But he handles it anyway and then goes, I hate this job sometimes.
I haven't
literally no one else to do it. They go to the shop where he makes multiple deer penis jokes and also just other blatantly offensive, things towards the Asian American community. And then immediately after that, they're dissecting the corpse and they're like, huh, nice tits. And he goes, too nice, and starts cutting the implant out. It is by far the most unlikable montage of how to make me hate a character as much as possible.
Well, let's just break down this scene where he stops the school shooting real quick.
But just real quick, is that what you're talking about, Zach? That's just Seagal. That's
no,
him
it
as
is
a
so
human
much
being.
worse. Yes, but it is so much worse here than we've even seen before.
Oh, I don't disagree with you. It's just really fun. It's funny to me because that's it is that bad. It's so upsetting, but that's just him.
Yes.
Aw.
But like he thinks this is how you build like a kind of fun, charming, relatable character, I guess.
Mm-hmm. But like
Anyway, Aaron,
this
continue.
the first like major scene of this movie really sets up what this is going to be about, like how this movie is going to work, because there's a kid at this Catholic high school.
Oh, I forgot about
because
this
everything in this
completely.
movie is Catholic, and I don't know why, except for a small group of people who are Russian Orthodox. But anyway, there's this kid who like has hostages in a classroom, and he's threatening to kill them, and he has a gun in this Catholic school, and so like this call goes out on the radio, and he says, "Let's respond," and his partner rightly says, "That's not our job. We don't have the skills to handle that." And he says, "Well, we're gonna do it anyway. We're cops, right? We stop crime." And then they drive over there. He does not wait for the hostage negotiator, which is a very specific job that requires
And he is, fun fact,
incredible
the
training and skills.
absolute worst hostage negotiator possible.
He is the worst hostage negotiator you've ever seen. He just busts into the classroom with a gun.
Like, what if I
points
do
it at
everything
the-
humanly possible to rile up this like armed student?
Yes, points at this child, and ends up tackling him through a window from one building into another building.
That's right. And then the whole like the layout of that made no sense. There's just no possible way. It was
That
so
didn't even really
confusing.
bother me. At
Really?
the end, so at the end of this scene, so like that didn't really bother me because just like a minute later, the kid's stepdad comes over, who ends up being the villain at the end of this whole thing, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
The kid's stepdad comes over and says, "Please don't have my kid sent to prison for all this stuff. I would like him to go to a rehabilitation center instead." And Seagal like refuses and gets upset that this guy would even suggest that. Like it's some sort of injustice that this child wouldn't go to prison for this, but would instead go to a rehabilitation center.
Yeah.
Which the kid does end up going to a rehabilitation center, which I want to talk about that place eventually. But anyway, it was a very strange thing. Well, he just like busts into the situation, complains about being part of it, even though he volunteered to show up, has no skills to handle this, handles it terribly poorly, and things turn out okay.
Yep. Well, because he's Lieutenant Jack the Glimmer Man Cole. Oh, also, here you don't have to watch this movie at all. He's called the Glimmer Man because like all they would see before they die in Vietnam was a glimmer. That's it. That's why this movie has the dumbest title imaginable.
Hardly enough to justify the title.
It's one line in this entire movie. If you're wondering why it's called the Glimmer Man, wonder no longer.
You never even see him like do his glimmer thing,
No,
whatever that would be.
Nope.
yeah, no. Okay, I'm not even gonna. Yeah, we don't.
Like he misses 80% of the shots he takes.
But he doesn't even like attempt to do sniping in this one. He's done sniping in other movies. I assume the Glimmer is like up his scope, like before Bang.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He doesn't even try. He doesn't even pretend to attempt to do like sniping in this one.
No,
he has
like,
a handgun.
Like
it is
Limp
very
Wristed
funny.
holds his classic 1911 as he blinks while he shoots.
Also, I don't know if you noticed this one, but you know how like you watch a movie like John Wick and like very tight, precise movements. The reload is just it's already.
Oh, the
in
way
there.
he reloads
I love he like
is so
holds
dumb.
his arm up like above his head, like he's asking the teacher a question, ejects the clip, and then like fumbles it in. But he does it like twice in a row, where he like holds this
Yes.
thing up, like he's laying on the ground, undercut, like hiding behind a stove he ripped out of the wall, and then
Yeah.
he's just like, "Oh, but I need to raise
There
my
were two
arm so I
stoves
can
ripped out of
eject
the
my
wall in
clip."
this movie.
Oh my God, yeah.
But like, if he's the Glimmer
These
Man,
are-
like his
these are the
thing
liberals
was
coming to take your gas stoves.
well, if he's the Glimmer Man, and like his thing is that he's like a sniper, and they just see a glimmer and then they die.
Yeah.
He sets up this whole thing in this apartment with giant windows, where he gets all of his enemies together in a room, and they all
And-
hate each
yep,
other, and they start
yep.
fighting each other. Why didn't he just like post up on? So this could have been what you do, like the whole movie. Campbell, his partner, is like wondering who this guy is. So he's like, okay, we're going to set up on the roof across from the room where they're having this meeting. You know why they called me the Glimmer Man? Because I was like the best sniper in Vietnam. And then he like takes out the bad guys. Like that could have been
That actually would be somewhat decent.
That would have been too intelligent.
that didn't happen. Instead, they have an argument about advice that he gave in a previous scene that he's now choosing to ignore after having never followed that advice in the whole
After
movie.
the situation having not changed at all in any way, there's no reason that he needs to disregard his advice.
Nope. Because in this particular situation, it is actually the perfect advice to just sit and wait for your enemies to kill each other and then come in later and mop it up.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry, but real quick, this is the other line that's bugging me. The Steven Seagal being fully senile line. So like how I mentioned before, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make jokes at the expense of people who are legitimately senile, but whenever the girl's like, yeah, that's my boyfriend, and he's like, oh, you're his girlfriend. Similarly, there's one where after Keenen Ivory Wayans, it's very funny also that Keenen Ivory Wayans is like a huge fan of Casablanca in this movie. Like, I don't know why. That's just such like a random character detail that I actually liked. I kind of
like that, yeah.
Well, I just assume
his character was so perfect.
His character was great.
Right.
He just like
it's such a shame that he got paired with Seagal because his character in this movie was fantastic.
But also, so side note to my side note. It was very funny that Steven Seagal, that Keenen Ivory Wayans is watching Casablanca in a movie theater in 1990s.
1996.
Sure, and just bawling his eyes out at Casablanca, which, fair, you go off, King, I respect it.
Yeah, for it.
Steven Seagal interrupts him, brings him outside to have this conversation, and then Keenen Ivory Wayans is like, oh, I'm sorry, just keep calling him Jim Campbell. That name sucks. Keenen Ivory Wayans, he's just like, oh, I'm going to go finish my movie. You ever seen Casablanca? And Seagal's like, oh, have I ever seen Casablanca? And I'm just like, what are you rambling about?
It goes on for like a minute.
It's so long, and like Keenen Ivory Wayans should just be like, dude, all I know about you is like you did essentially you're one of those guys that came back from a study abroad trip and now you think you're Tibetan. Like all I know about, and that you try to talk like a bad imitation of an African American. Like this is all I know about you is that you think you're so cool. That's a very reasonable question to ask if you've seen Casablanca. I don't even know what Seagal's trying to get at there. Anyway.
Well, it's supposed to be a joke.
I know, but what's the joke?
It's supposed to be like, me, have I seen Casablanca? Yeah, have you seen Casablanca? It's supposed to be like, do you honestly think that I haven't seen it?
No, but then he says no, but then he says he hasn't seen it.
Yeah, that's the joke.
That's the joke. He's acting like of course he has, and then he says, no, I haven't seen it.
I don't blame you for being confused.
If it were a different actor,
but he just ran because he doesn't like. There's no different. No, actually, like he doesn't change his tone.
I don't blame you for being confused because he doesn't.
No, I wasn't confused.
But that's supposed to be the joke.
The movie was confused. I was not confused. I'm very clear.
Okay.
But anyway,
Aaron and I both got it.
They're teamed up. No, listen.
It was bad. It was very poorly delivered, but like I got the joke.
Yeah.
It wasn't a joke. It was a senile rambling. Anyway. Okay. But they're teamed up now. They go and they knock on this guy's door because his daughter, the kid's girlfriend, was making these phone calls from his house. But when they answer the door, the guy looks at Keenen Ivory Wayans, whose like apartment was just blown up. He looks at him. He says, "You just look like you came from a riot." And then Steven Seagal, looking at this guy, goes, "He just looks like he came from a riot." Like the guy says, "Keenen Ivory Wayans, you look like you came from a riot," and Seagal's response is, "Keenen Ivory Wayans looks like he came from a riot." Like you just said what he just said. Is that some joke I missed now too, Hans?
No, he was talking to Seagal.
No, watch that scene. He is 100%. He makes eye contact with Keenen Ivory Wayans.
Oh,
it would only Again, Hans, I understand why you're confused. It would make sense if he was looking at Seagal when he said it, but the guy is not looking at Seagal when he says it.
No, you can't blame that on this one. Seagal wasn't directing.
No, but it just doesn't make sense. The guy looks at him and says, "You look like you came from Riot." And he goes, "He looks like he came from Riot." Like, what are you saying? Like, do you smell toast? Like, do you smell burning toast right now? Like, what is going on inside of your head, Steven Seagal? I'm sorry, but that's just the other one that bugged me. Is those two lines, which are both in like pretty quick succession of one another, like in the same scene, and then the other, like, or he's just incomprehensibly rambling. That's all he says in these movies. Or in this movie specifically. I mean, in general, yes, but it's so much worse in this movie.
Any other major characters we want to talk about?
I liked the police chief who was so irritated with Seagal's bullshit. And then when he finally asked him, like, I gotta ask you to give me your gun and your badge. First of all, he doesn't actually give him his gun. Mm-hmm. He only gives him his badge. But when he gives him his badge, he says, "Which one of those urinals did you just piss in?" And then he chucks it in a urinal. I did actually think that was very funny.
Okay, that was pretty good.
Yeah. I liked the family that's brought up so incredibly little. I understand this was kind of an editing thing. They had a large role. I think it's very funny. He is seen at a funeral with a wife and two kids. When he's being taken by Infernal Affairs, which isn't really Infernal Affairs, he like waves goodbye to them, and that's it. That's the only time you see them in this movie. And then again, just another weird thing that doesn't make sense, that I feel like the script was written some way else, that just like the ending scene of this movie would only make sense if Seagal was the one who was injured that was like going in the ambulance, because then it would make sense when the guy says like, oh, it looks like I owe you an apology. But it's not. He's completely unharmed. He's fine. Keenan Ivory Wayans is in the ambulance. But then also, Keenan Ivory Wayans is in the ambulance being taken to the hospital. And the guy says to Seagal, is there anything I could do for you? And Seagal says, why don't you tell my wife and kids I'm all right? What? Why, mother? Why? Like, do you just not want to talk to them? You're just standing there. The ambulance pulls off. He's just standing there doing nothing. He doesn't even say, oh, I have to go file a report, or, oh, I gotta go do this. He's just like, hey, can you tell my wife I'm all right? Why don't you? This would only make sense if he was the one in the ambulance going away and he's like, tell him I'm all right. That would make sense for an ending.
You can literally just go home.
He just like
there's nothing preventing.
So his boss is going to call and be like, "Hey, your husband's all right," and they're like, "Oh, where is he coming home?" Oh, I don't know. He just wanted me to tell you that he's all right.
Well, I just said there's nothing preventing him from going home, which is only true if we ignore all of the many, many crimes that he committed throughout this whole movie. Yeah. He should be going directly to jail.
He should.
I thought some of the like background characters were pretty cool in this one. Like there's the maitre d' at the Italian restaurant that Seagal just smacks the crap out of him for no reason.
Okay, so we talked about this before. He just goes to a random business and assaults people for no reason that have nothing to do with the investigation.
And breaks all their
Again, I think this one is the worst one so far. Like the the guy is just on the phone with another customer. Yeah. He's not even being rude to Seagal. He's just currently helping someone else.
Well,
so Seagal just punches
he wasn't helping. He was being rude to the customer on the phone.
But then he just punches them, and Seagal goes, "Yeah, you can go ahead and come in, get a table anytime." Like, he doesn't help them.
Yeah, no you're not wrong.
Well, what I did love about this character is that when he's on the phone speaking to whoever he's talking to, trying to make a reservation, he has an Italian accent. Yeah, he hangs up the phone. He switches to an American accent when he's like arguing with Seagal. Right. I thought that was lovely. Like, I loved that.
That's fun. But I think that is the worst. Just Seagal assaults a random person. I'm like, you just assaulted a guy who was in the middle of doing his job. He might not have been nice while doing it, but like, he wasn't personally mean to you. He didn't actually impede you.
I think the movie made a mistake that in the previous films, when he just like walks into someone's business and beats the crap out of them, like, I don't know anything about these people, or they've shown themselves to be like rude and mean.
Right,
you told me one thing about this character, that when he is on the phone with a customer, he speaks in a fake Italian accent, and that just made him like way more interesting to me. And then you just smack the crap out of him, and now I'm sad.
Right.
Like, I didn't want to see this character that I built. Like, you did a really good job giving me a bond to this character. Find something interesting in him that I care about, and then you just smacked him really hard.
It sucks so much.
And then beat up all of his friends. And some of these Italian guys can do kung fu for some reason, but it's fine. And then another character. So as like all the villains are getting together in the big apartment building, they walk in to like Zack Snyder slow-mo.
Oh my God.
Just like walking through the door. And it's like a solid 2 minutes of them just walking through the door in slow motion. But they look over at like the front desk of this building, and there's a guy smoking a cigar, like reading the newspaper, spinning a key, who's like, he's working with Seagal and Campbell. Like, he gives them like a signal that everything is starting. Yeah. Who is this guy? We don't see him before. We don't hear from him afterward. Like, who is he? He just vanishes. That's his only scene.
But it's even better because then at the end, after like stuff went down, as the bad guy's getting away, Seagal is sitting like the guy looks over to the desk where that guy was, and then like Seagal, like, there's a guy reading a newspaper there, and he pulls it down, and Seagal's sitting there. So like, you have to remember, he rescued Keenan Ivory Wayans, rappelled down a building, and then decided to be a little cute, to get in that little, like, security guard desk and have a newspaper, and he's just sitting there waiting, like, ooh, the bad guy's going to come down in a second now, and I'm going to pop out from behind my newspaper, and it's going to get him.
Which, of course, he couldn't just, like, trust the guy that he hired to do that. It has to be Seagal. It must be.
But, like, he couldn't even just be, ooh, I'm already down here, I beat you down here. He, like, had to have this actual detail of, ooh, and I'm going to sit there and read the paper so I can pop out from behind the paper. It's so funny.
I thought it was funny.
No. It sucked.
I had a good time because
I had a bad time.
I think honestly it was just his sidekick's character was just fantastic, even though he was paired up with the worst human being on the planet.
But the problem, like, I bet it's because, like, ordinarily that's the case, and ordinarily there's some supporting person who can kind of carry it, and that's great because there's, like, a couple of them, so Seagal, like, only has, like, 30% screen time. But he has, like, most of the screen, like, he's just always present, he's always there, and I like Keenan Ivory Wayans, but, like, he's not enough to make me ignore Seagal. Like, I hate Seagal more, I'm sorry. It was unbearable. I hated this movie. I couldn't stand like a single second of it. Like within the first 5 minutes, I just wanted it to be over.
Can I talk about some of the Catholic stuff?
Yes.
Real quick, actually. No, actually, never mind. I'll say this later. Go ahead. Talk about the Catholic.
Okay.
I don't give a I don't care.
So there was one thing that like really bothered me because it was so close to being clever, and they just whiffed it. The mental health institution, the sanitarium, it's called a sanitarium in this movie, where like the high school kid from the opening scene is placed, and which is like a climactic, like leading up to the climax of the film later in the movie, is called Our Lady of Angels, which drove me up the wall.
Yeah, fair.
Why?
Because, okay, for a couple of reasons. One, it's Our Lady of the Angels. That's just missing an article. Like, nobody says Our Lady of Angels. That is, it like grates on my ears to hear that.
Fair.
So it's Our Lady of the Angels. And them messing it up was like an extra bad thing because the whole movie takes place in Los Angeles, which the original name of the city of Los Angeles is Puebla de Nuestra Señora de los Ángeles, which means Our Lady, the city of Our Lady of the Angels. They just called this place Our Lady of the Angels, except they messed up the name and just called it Our Lady of Angels, which made the whole thing worse. And this whole time, I'm just like mad watching this whole scene.
I mean, so it's basically like an Idiocracy when they make the joke when he goes to St. God's Hospital, which, by the way, hilarious. I'm laughing now just thinking about it. St. God's Hospital makes me laugh every single time. Not even every time I see it, every time I think about it. It's like the funniest. It's like the funniest joke in one of my like favorite dumb movies. St. God's Hospital. This is basically just like the accidental played for straight, not a joke. St. God's Hospital.
Like they basically just named it Los Angeles Sanitarium, but they forgot the Los. Like it's just Angeles, and it's nonsense. And also, all the nuns who are at this place, their habits make no sense. I don't know what they're wearing.
I like that. Like armed, killers break into this hospital to kill this kid, and they save him, and then he just goes, "Okay, you nuns, just watch him." Like, and there's no concern that like anyone's gonna come back to kill this kid. Like that, all those people in that hospital are in danger. Like, it is clearly a target of violence. They just don't follow up on that at all.
They also just like leave a body in this kid's bedroom.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh yeah, just take care of him," and I'm like, "Okay,
just leave it for the nuns to take care of."
Right?
No, it's very strange. And then, so there's this whole... Oh, yeah, they actually find the family man, like the serial killer who's been going around.
Yeah.
Who says he only killed people he was told to kill.
Yeah.
But by who? What? Yeah. I didn't understand how that fit into things. Like, was he just mentally disturbed, thought he was receiving visions from God? Or was he somehow involved in the conspiracy? I don't know if that was ever resolved.
I don't believe it's ever. I don't know. I might have missed it.
But anyway,
I checked out a lot of times during this movie, so I could have missed it very well. But I don't think it was explained.
The church that they're in, very beautiful, and it's set up as if it's Good Friday. Except Good Friday is in the spring, and this whole movie takes place in winter. And that just bothered me because I felt like I was in 2 times at once. But that's something that you would only notice if you happen to know what a church looks like on Good Friday.
They were probably just filming in April, and they just used the church and didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking hated this movie. I don't care anymore. Why?
Oh, but there was a hilarious moment.
Yeah. What if we just give up on life? Like, what's it matter anyway?
Well, because probably my favorite scene in this whole movie is when this is really frenetic. He's fighting with the 2 Russian guys in the car as they're impersonating internal affairs.
Oh my god.
The car starts going out of control.
Okay, that's my favorite scene too.
They drive down this alley, and there are just like these barrels full of fluorescent light bulbs, like the long fluorescent light bulbs. And so they're just smashing through just hundreds of fluorescent
That's
light
where the
bulbs.
entire budget went. Okay, actually, I will touch. Okay, you saw me at my lowest, so you knew how to bring me up. Probably my favorite scene is this for many reasons. They grab him, but the guy goes to it. One of the internal affairs guys goes to adjust the mirror, so Steven Seagal sees the tattoo and knows they're the Russians. So he speaks in Russian, and so I'm like, okay, that's what a movie would do in this situation. That actually works somewhat well. But then the guy goes to point a gun. Steven Seagal directs it away from his own head. He kind of points the gun away from it. And ordinarily, a person goes to shoot, you point the gun away. They fire 2 or 3 times. This guy shoots 8 times while Seagal is just holding the gun.
The whole magazine.
Seagal grabs the gun, just starts hitting. And the thing is, you'd see normally he grabs the gun, hits the guy over the head. That's normal in a movie. Yeah. But he's just wailing on this guy. The scene is going on way too long. It's playing the same sound effect, which sounds like a sock filled with raw chicken hitting a couch.
It's like a Minecraft
it's just a weak a Minecraft just thump. But he's just hitting the dude with the gun 47 times. This is going on a Family Guy gag. Kind of hits the other guy a couple times, which just keeps alternating between hitting them with the same crappy sound effects.
And meanwhile, the driver has his foot to the floor the entire time.
Not kind of. There's definitely sometimes the camera shakes doing a lot of work, but it looks like they're actually going 5 miles an hour when the camera's not shaking.
I just mean in the theme of the movie, the guy's still driving. He's not trying to stop. He's still going for it.
But also,
and then the scene ends with keep going.
They lightly sideswipe a parked car, which completely flips this car over and explodes the car that was parked. They just they ding the side mirror and this car bursts into flames. The car's upside down. Also, again, on its roof, sliding for a really long time. Enough for Seagal to kick out the window and roll out. For this car to hit a oil tanker or something just chilling there, so it explodes.
Seriously, parallel or not, but perpendicularly parked.
And then Seagal, admittedly, he does not run as silly as he has in the past, but he just kind of gets up and just
a little bit
kind of does this weird little jog away.
I did. The last note that I have is he runs in this one. We got to reset the counter.
And it's weird, but it's weird differently this kind, because this time instead of filling his arms, he keeps his arms to his side. Picture his arms
he was getting coaching on how to run less weird.
But he literally just waved goodbye to his family, and then he was in a car with 2 Russian mobsters, and 5 cars exploded, and he doesn't go to he doesn't go to talk to them. You don't see that family again for the rest of the movie.
It's days go by.
And then he tells another guy to tell them he's okay.
How about Jack? You go home. Hug your wife and kids.
Right. Be like, hey, we gotta move you out of here. They know you're here. This isn't safe.
You almost died 8 times since you last saw them.
No, so the car scene actually probably...
That is a good point. They obviously know where he lives. They obviously know about his family. And
look, there were more scenes with the family that got edited out. That's... It's the same, cutting room, nonsense shenanigans that we've seen before.
Is there anything else we want to say about the movie, or do we want to move into my favorite part? All the people who went on to do bigger and better things.
That's actually what I wanted. So I promised.
got one more thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
There's one more thing. This movie is, once again, exactly one Paul Blart long.
Nice. And you know what? Boy, does it overstay that welcome.
Every single one of these is just over the hour-and-a-half mark by 1 or 2 minutes. And they're I don't know if that's some kind of secret Hollywood code for it to be considered a feature film, that it has to be an hour and a half long. But all of these only just make that mark.
I do know that technically for Oscar eligibility, I believe a movie has to be longer than 45 minutes to be considered a feature, but pretty much in theaters you never see anything. I don't know if that's official or not. You just don't, an hour and a half tends to be
I would bet you it has something to do with the film reel at a standard movie theater.
Probably. It's probably some weird things, how horse carts in the ancient Roman Empire were this distance, so now that's why roads are still the size they are. It probably is something like that. Some 1920s random business decision that dictates it to this day.
Oh,
It could
one
be.
last
It just
note.
really makes me laugh that they're all like exactly the same length of time as this one like notoriously awful movie that it is the same thing. It's only just over that hour-and-a-half mark because that's what it had to get to.
Yep.
One last note on religion stuff. So he, when they decide to go stop the carjacking, which apparently required like 15 Russian mobsters, who just happened to be connected to the thing that he was investigating.
Well, I thought that was where they were headed. Like they were going to meet with those people anyway. Like that was supposed to be an ambush.
No, they were gonna go see some informant.
Oh,
and
okay,
like Seagal,
then...
because Seagal sees the carjacking, he's like, "Oh, we need to go stop that." And Campbell, he says like, we can't stop and like stop every crime. Like we're on our way to do an important thing.
No, I guess you're right. You're right.
And he pulls over anyway, and they do it, and it just happens to be connected to the thing that they're doing.
Yep.
But he
Just,
explains
like, random dumb luck.
Yep.
That's like most of the movie. But like he explains to Campbell, like his religion prevents him from fighting, and he explains if it doesn't prevent me from fighting, it prevents me from starting fights. And for the rest of the movie, he starts every single fight.
Every single
Like
one.
he
Again.
I think the next scene is him walking into a restaurant and smacking the crap out of the maitre d'. Like
Who again did literally nothing for this provocation other than taking slightly too long to end a phone call.
nope.
I mean, again, like we talked about this before, that like, you know, he'll say, "Hey, if you're teamed up with me, you got to do things my way," and then he does absolutely nothing this way that he describes. Like we've talked, like that's a pretty common thing.
Like he will tell his partner how things ought to be done, and then just doesn't do them that way.
And also
like,
has
you should
the
be patient and wait.
And also the partner does like all of the work.
Yes. Anyway, anything else before we go on to people who did cool stuff later?
So people, I promised
I got
Hans actually before he had watched the movie, when I watched it, I promised Hans a particularly, I'm not gonna say juicy, a particularly interesting person who would go on to do better things later. Did you catch him? It was very blink and you'll miss it.
I did not know.
Did you know that Chad Stahelski, John Wick director, Matrix stunt person, like numerous, like countless, too many films to count stunt coordinator, but for you specifically, Hans, the director of the first 3 Matrix films and the upcoming 4th Matrix film, Chad Stahelski, Keanu Reeves' stunt double in The Matrix, is in The Glimmer Man in an uncredited role as carjacker/thug.
Huh.
Whoa.
That's crazy.
That is cool.
Why is it the upcoming Matrix 4?
Because it's upcoming, because it comes out next month. Is this a bit?
Didn't that already come out?
Like a year ago?
Wait. No,
This would make Matrix 5.
no, I said the Matrix 4. I meant John Wick 4.
Okay.
The director. Okay. Let's try. He was in the Matrix as well. In the first Matrix as Keanu Reeves' stunt double. He was in the most recent Matrix Resurrections as Chad, which is very funny. And no, the director of John Wick 4 coming out.
Got it.
Come on.
Yes.
Still
That's
very
crazy.
sad. Still very sad that we were robbed of the Matrix 4 John Wick 4 double feature that was never going to be, but was temporarily slated to be.
COVID took so many things from me, but that one's the one I'm most upset about.
That Glimmer Man star Chad Stahelski's 2 roles could not grace the silver screen on the same day. Yeah, I mean, there's other people that go on to do cool things, but I just wanted to share the Chad Stahelski one. I thought that one was fun.
Yeah,
because this is relatively early in his career where he's doing like uncredited bit parts and like stunts.
Yeah. No, this one was another like weirdly star-studded cast for a Seagal movie.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but that cast was not able to carry this across the finish line as much as...
No, very
well, that's
sad.
because you didn't spend as much time with them. You seem like most of it was Seagal.
Okay, but I did. It was very weird. Again, like it's kind of weird, but not like weird in like the fun campy way. Like it was kind of odd when the 2 guys are having their like 2 corrupt guys conversation, and the one dude like just gets in the pool while they're still talking and is like, "Come on in, the water's fine." That was just like weird, right?
Yeah, it was.
And that wasn't like Tommy Lee Jones doing like a fun rock and roll thing, like, doing this podcast on that air. This is just they're talking, and then he just kind of gets in the pool. And if I was the other guy, I'd be like, can we have this conversation on land, please? Can you put the rope back on? Like, that was just weird.
Yeah. No,
Anyway.
you're right.
He's like chomping on a cigar too, I want to say, or he's drinking whiskey. He's doing some kind of, corrupt guy type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Well, so there were some very famous people in here. Bob Gunton, probably best known as the warden from The Shawshank Redemption.
I could have been watching this.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I should have been watching. Oh, and Leland Owlsley in Daredevil.
Yes.
He's much older, but when you watch Daredevil, he's Owlsley. He killed it in that role. He was fantastic.
That was generally a very good show.
I mean, I haven't seen the latest season, but for the first season, I still think it's just like a perfect little self-contained thing that kind of was ruined by having to continually be expanded upon and tie into this other show. But we don't need to get into that right now.
And then we've already talked about Brian Cox, who plays like the shadowy super soldier program coordinator in like every movie that needs a shadowy super soldier program coordinator.
X-Men United.
I've
I've been meaning to watch Succession. I've seen some clips. He's pretty good in Succession.
I heard it's good. And then Stephen Tobolowsky, who's been in nearly 300 things.
Jeez, my man.
Very prolific. I don't even really want to go through everything he's been in. But he's like, if you can think of something that you liked from the 2000s, he was probably in it.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie though. Whenever his face first showed up, I think it was probably Groundhog Day is like the first place that my mind went to.
Yeah, he's Ned. You know, remember Ned?
And I know I've seen him in like dozens of other things, but I think that is like primarily where my mind just went to, like, the annoying guy from Groundhog Day.
Yeah,
well,
it's me, your old buddy from high school.
I immediately go to what is it? Oh, Seinfeld. He's like the herbalist that tries to cure George's tonsils.
I could have been watching Seinfeld. Actually, wait, no, that was a lie. I went to the first time I saw him, I went to Action Jack Barker from Silicon Valley, and then I went to, and then the next time it cuts to him, I thought of.
I forgot about that.
I saw him. I'm just like, again, similar. Oh no, it wasn't this? Is we were watching season 1 of Bones, and Gavin Belson appears in there, and it's as a lawyer, and it's very weird. But seeing Jack Barker here was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, this dude's been in like a million things.
Oh my gosh, yeah, what a guy!
Deservedly
a million
so.
Better things than this.
Yeah. Now there's
John M. Jackson was in A Few Good Men.
There's one kind of a deep cut that so there were some interesting like musical moments, like when he's rappelling down, when Steven Seagal is rappelling down from the roof of this building. Like there's some interesting musical stuff going on. So I just wanted to look into who the composer was. Okay. The composer, Trevor Rabin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Rabin. I don't know. Rabin.
Yeah.
He had just a few composing credits. He started out in the mid 70s. Made some stuff into the late 90s. Didn't make anything between 1989 and The Glimmer Man. He makes The Glimmer Man. 1996. 1997, he's the composer for Con Air. Nice. 1998, he does Armageddon.
I could have been watching Con Air.
Goes on for, he makes a whole bunch of stuff. He's the composer for Remember the Titans. But then he makes like a bunch of movies that I think I kind of put into like the same category of like Hollywood schlock movies that are like sometimes well remembered. So you got like Kangaroo Jack, National Treasure. He was the composer for Bad Boys 2.
Hey, I could.
You ain't never seen Bad Boys 2.
Snakes on a Plane.
I could have been watching Bad Boys 2.
Again,
a much better. Oh my god, a much better buddy cop.
Get Smart.
Bad Boys 2.
I could have been watching. This is a lot of very good credits for this guy.
Well, and at least like movies from like the 2000s that I don't think are very good, but like I remember them. Like I remember them existing, like Sorcerer's Apprentice, I Am Number 4, stuff like that.
I could have been watching Most Action Hero.
So he went on to compose the music for like some pretty famous movies that maybe aren't known for their music,
but still.
I could have been watching Die Hard with a Vengeance.
And it was the Glimmer Man that really started his career, because after Glimmer Man, he composes for a film or a TV show like every year after that.
I could have been watching Training Day.
You could have been watching a lot of stuff.
I love so much how you and I have flip-flopped on this.
I could have been watching
I
could have been watching Lethal Weapon. How bad do you have to be that in the pantheon of buddy cop movies, you come out worse than Mel Gibson? Mel Gibson has both acting and real-life moral superiority over you. How are you that bad? I could have been watching Men in Black. That counts.
I feel like I need to go watch Men in Black right now.
I feel like I need to watch like literally anything right now. I could have been watching.
Actually, I'll be honest with you. You were talking about St. God's Hospital, and now you really want to make me watch Idiocracy. It's not a buddy cop. It has nothing to do with any of this, but that made me laugh. And then I started thinking about Welcome to Costco. I love you.
I could have been watching The Heat.
Now I really want to watch Idiocracy.
Well, now that we've totally lost
I really should have been watching Russia. Okay, this is something I need to touch on real quick. This was a point I needed to make earlier, but I didn't. So the thing with a buddy cop movie is you need to have buddies that balance each other out, okay? So they're different. Usually one of them is a bit more straight-laced, a little more by the books, a little more, rigid, needs to loosen up a bit. The other one is a bit more of a freewheeler, a bit loose, maybe he doesn't do things just right, but you learn that his heart's in a good place, and both of them can learn something from each other. The tight, the solid, firm by the books guy learns to loosen up, Oh, the more carefree spirit learns, some way to be a hero. Picture, Rush Hour when they're singing, "War, huh, what is it good for?" That scene's great. Where he and Jackie Chan drops a hard R N-bomb and still, does not even touch the tamest scene in this movie. Rush Hour is such a good movie. But the reason this entire movie does not work, this movie should not exist, is because they need to be diametrically opposed, but learn to appreciate, respect, and just learn something from one another. But Seagal refuses to learn something else. It's a buddy cop movie where one of the buddies just tells the other guy how to do everything. And again, normally it's the two of them are sitting in the back of the ambulance. One of them's got a broken arm, one of them's got a bullet, but they're like, I get in trouble with you. Don't come around these parts anymore, stranger, and then they're in this next 3 sequels, and they're not as good, but they're still fun. Rush Hour 3 is still a pretty good time. Yeah. But here, Steven Seagal is completely untouched. Not a single hair of his ponytail out of place at the end. And the other dude's, going away to the hospital, so it just doesn't work at all.
And
that's the thing. That's the problem with this movie. It isn't that it's bad. It's just that it literally betrays its own... it should not exist.
Well, and I think they even, acknowledge that at the end of the film, we've already said. At the end, Campbell, he's like... Before I met you, things were fine, and since I met you a week ago, I am homeless. All my earthly possessions are destroyed. I've been shot.
But that's supposed to be a speech from a different movie. It just doesn't work in this movie at all.
Well, in this movie,
we said at the beginning, it only works because it's actually Keenan Ivory Wayans saying that to Steven Seagal, not their characters saying it to each other.
Well, I think in another movie it could have worked, but this line... this moment just rings too true for it to be a joke.
But you know how...
if you just examine it objectively, yes, his life is objectively worse since
But you know how, in
Jack
Bad
Cole.
Boys 2, they're kind of beef and they don't like each other, they're not getting along at all, but then, the boyfriend and the one guy's daughter shows up, and they both immediately, without even having to communicate, they team up, they know exactly what to do to, scare this guy off.
Mm-hmm.
That
never happened.
That's what it is. That's what this needs to be. That doesn't happen because they don't.
They are in conflict throughout the entire film.
Wait, I can't believe I made this. I haven't mentioned Blue Streak. Speaking of Martin Lawrence, buddy cop movie. Martin Lawrence, Luke Wilson. This is the second time on this podcast. This is my second Blue Streak drop. It is severely underrated, very slept on. It is a great movie when you're at a hotel and you just flip on the cable TV because you don't have your streaming, you don't have your Plex server with you. It is just a great time to watch that. You also watch Blue Streak. You should definitely watch Rush Hour.
Now that we're suggesting other films,
you should definitely watch Die Hard with a Vengeance. You should definitely watch Men in Black. You should definitely watch the other guys. The Nice Guys, Tango and Cash, Turner and Hooch, Lethal Weapon 2, Hot Fuzz, of course. Goes without saying, but I'll say it. Just don't watch this.
You can even throw the other guys in there.
I said the other guys.
Did.
Oh, you did? Oh, sorry.
I threw them right in there. Yeah, you could throw them in again. I'll take a second. I'll take an endorsement.
No,
yeah,
I'm
go watch
sorry,
the other
I
guys.
missed it.
Actually, you should, Hans, if you haven't seen The Nice Guys, I think you would love The Nice Guys.
Really?
Yeah,
actually pretty good.
With was it Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling? You should watch The
I
Nice
definitely
Guys.
haven't seen it.
That's a fantastic movie. Have you seen
Any favorite quotes from this movie?
No, I hated it. I hated every second of it.
Oh, it's the yeah, I speak a little bit of Russian, and then he just bangs the guy's head on the car.
Okay, I changed my mind. That one. I hated every other second other than that one. That second was cool.
It's a tie between. Yeah, no, it's definitely that one.
I liked because it baffled me, and I had to like think about, did I miss here or something? It's no, he looks like he was just in a riot.
Thank you.
I had to like think about
I literally I had to rewind and watch that again because I'm like, did I miss something? No.
Nope.
No.
It just didn't make any sense. Well, thank you all for listening. I don't know how you made it through that. Because I don't know how I made it through this movie.
I don't know how I made it through that.
But we will see you again. Don't watch this movie.
That means one of us has to die. Don't mention it, brother.